Title: Shocking Confession. Meri Brown finally admits Janelle's past marriage to her brother still haunts her. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's tea is hot, emotional, and honestly a little bit heartbreaking. If you've been following Sister Wives for years, you already know this family has layers upon layers of complicated relationships, but what Meri Brown just admitted, it adds a whole new level of tension we didn't fully understand before. So grab your snacks, settle in, and let's break down the drama, the history, and the emotions that are still affecting this family today. Let's rewind for a second, because this story, it didn't start yesterday. Long before the cameras, before the fame, before the breakdown of plural unity, there was a relationship that has always felt a little complicated. Janelle Brown was once married to Meri Brown's brother.
Yes, you heard that right.
Before she ever became part of Cody Brown's plural marriage, Janelle was legally tied to Meri's own family. And even though that marriage didn't last, it created a connection that would later resurface in a way no one could have predicted. When Janelle eventually married Cody and entered the Brown family as a sister wife, she wasn't just a new wife, she was already someone deeply connected to Meri's past. And now, years later, Meri is finally opening up about how that really made her feel. Meri's emotional confession, and it's raw. In a recent moment that has fans talking, Meri admitted that Janelle's past marriage to her brother brought up a lot of emotions. And honestly, that might be the understatement of the year. Because think about it, this isn't just about jealousy or adjustment. This is about blending family lines in a way that most people would find incredibly difficult to process. Meri didn't go into detail about every single feeling, but the tone said everything. There was vulnerability, there was discomfort, and there was clearly something unresolved lingering beneath the surface. Fans immediately picked up on it, because for years, viewers have noticed that Meri and Janelle's relationship has always felt distant. Respectful at times, yes, cooperative when needed, but never truly close. And now we might finally understand why. A relationship that never fully clicked. Let's be real. Out of all the sister wives, Meri and Janelle have always had one of the most strained dynamics. While Christine brought warmth and humor, and Robin entered later with her own influence, Meri and Janelle often felt like two people forced into a situation neither fully embraced. And now, looking back, it makes sense. Because how do you build a sisterhood with someone who was once your sister-in-law in a completely different context? That's not just awkward. That's emotionally complicated. Meri essentially had to watch someone who was once part of her immediate family become her co-wife. That's a massive shift, not just in roles, but in identity. And based on her recent comments, it's clear that transition wasn't easy, and maybe never fully healed. Fans are connecting the dots, and it's eye-opening. After Meri's confession, longtime viewers are revisiting old episodes and noticing things they didn't fully understand before. The tension, the distance, the lack of emotional intimacy between Meri and Janelle. It wasn't just personality differences. It was history. And not just any history. Deep, personal, family-level history that doesn't just disappear because circumstances change. Some fans are even saying this revelation explains why Meri often seemed guarded around Janelle, especially in earlier seasons. Because when your past and present collide like that, it's hard to separate emotions. But here's where things get even more complicated. Meri wasn't just dealing with Janelle's presence as a sister wife. She was also navigating her own evolving relationship with Cody. Over the years, we've seen Meri struggle with feelings of isolation, rejection, and emotional distance from Cody. And when you add that to an already complicated dynamic with Janelle, it becomes a perfect storm. Because instead of feeling supported, Meri often seemed like she was on the outside looking in. And now, knowing that Janelle had this prior connection to her family, it adds another layer to that isolation. Was it jealousy? Was it discomfort? Was it unresolved feelings from the past? Maybe all of the above. Janelle's perspective, the calm in the chaos. One thing that makes this situation even more fascinating is Janelle's personality. She has always been known as the logical, calm, and somewhat detached member of the family. She doesn't typically engage in emotional confrontations, and she often approaches situations from a practical standpoint. So while Meri may have been feeling all these intense emotions, Janelle may not have fully realized the depth of that impact. Or if she did, she chose not to address it in a dramatic way. And that difference in emotional expression, it likely made things even harder for Meri. Because when one person is feeling deeply and the other is staying neutral, it can create a disconnect that's hard to bridge. Why this confession matters now. You might be wondering, why is Meri talking about this now? Why bring up something from so long ago? Well, the answer might lie in everything that's happened recently within the Brown family. With relationships shifting, marriages ending, and the family dynamic completely changing, there's been a lot of reflection happening. And sometimes, when everything falls apart, you start looking back at the moments that shaped the journey. For Meri, this could be one of those moments. A realization that the emotional challenges she faced weren't just about the present. They were rooted in the past. The emotional toll of plural marriage exposed. This situation also highlights something bigger about sister wives that fans have been discussing for years. Plural marriage isn't just about sharing a husband. It's about managing complex emotional relationships between multiple women, each with their own history, insecurities, and expectations. And when you add pre-existing relationships into the mix, it becomes even more complicated. Meri's confession is a reminder that behind the lifestyle, behind the cameras, and behind the drama, there are real emotions that don't just disappear. Fan reactions are pouring in, and they're intense. Social media has been buzzing since Meri's comment surfaced. Some fans are expressing sympathy for her, saying they can't imagine being in that situation. Others are saying this explains a lot about the tension they've noticed over the years. And of course, there are those who are questioning why this wasn't addressed more openly earlier in the show. Because let's be honest, this is the kind of storyline that would have had viewers glued to their screens. But instead, it remained mostly unspoken until now. Was this the root of everything? Here's the big question fans are asking. Could this unresolved emotional tension have played a role in the larger breakdown of the family? It's impossible to say for sure. But when you look at the cracks that formed over time, the distance between wives, the communication issues, the emotional disconnect, it's hard not to wonder if this was one of the foundational issues. Because when something starts off complicated and never fully gets resolved, it doesn't just go away. It lingers. And over time, it can grow into something much bigger. Meri's journey, and where she stands now. What makes this confession even more powerful is where Meri is in her life today. She's no longer in the same place she was years ago.
She's grown. She's evolved.
And she's clearly doing some deep reflection. By opening up about these emotions, she's giving fans a glimpse into her truth, something we don't always get to see in full on reality TV. And whether you agree with her, sympathize with her, or simply find the situation fascinating, there's no denying that this moment adds depth to her story. Final thoughts, because this one hits deep. At the end of the day, this isn't just gossip. It's a reminder that relationships, especially unconventional ones, are rarely simple. Meri Brown's admission about Janelle's past marriage to her brother sheds light on a dynamic that has likely influenced the family for years. It explains tension, it reveals vulnerability, and it gives fans a new perspective on a story they thought they already understood. But what do you think? Do you believe this played a major role in the strained relationship between Meri and Janelle? Or do you think there were bigger issues at play in the Brown family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear everything. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Sister Wives drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the latest tea. Because trust me, in this family, there's always